Welcome back to the United Pubcast. Long time no see, Larry. We were live not more than 15, 20 minutes ago, obviously talking with good mate of ours, Adam McCullough. And as news breaks, as it seems to happen on the pubcast, news broke as soon as we went live about Christian Eriksen had agreed to join Manchester United. I was a little bit late to the party. I thought this was going to happen on July 1st. I was proven wrong. It is July 4th here in Australia, July 4th and night. And finally it is done. Fabrizio Romano has given the here we go. Now, the here we go didn't work a little bit earlier in the window for Malacia, who is another name who we can discuss a little bit, but we can confirm this one with Fabrizio. I'm sure he's not going to make that same mistake twice. And obviously, probably the main man of this transfer window, David Ornstein, was one who I think did break it initially. Come out. I'm sure you got all the tweets there. Make sure you, if you are in the live chat, let us know what is happening in the sort of world of Twitter and social media, because as I said, we're just on stream, had a great chat with Adam McCullough. If you haven't listened to it, please go back and we discuss all things Ronaldo and the pre-season tour. But all the news has broken, and I haven't actually sort of read through the details, and it's not official, has it? I haven't seen any official photos. I haven't seen him holding up anything at Carrington. I'm not quite sure, but do let me know what you think the latest is, because I'm going to have a bit of a scroll through Twitter as you say good day to the viewers again.
Yeah, 100%, Tom, and evening to everyone once again. Look, on the Christian Eriksen news, I can give you all a quick summary around it, but if you are happy, Christian Eriksen is on his way to Manchester United. Make sure you do hit a like on the video. But let's all give you all a little bit of a summary on this. So Christian Eriksen will sign a 3-year deal with Manchester United, so there won't be another option for an additional year outside of that. So that means he's signed till June 2025. Verbal agreement at this stage. He's informed United. Everything will just be about getting him on board. He'll obviously do his medical, as being reported by Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein, who, like you said, Tom, correctly, has broken the news. And what a signing it is, to be honest. I'm really excited about it, and I guess I'll bring it back to you. How do you see him playing it in terms of United's setup? Do you think he'll be a squad player? Because that's what a lot of people tend to think. He'll be back up to Bruno Fernandes. I actually could see him as a mainstay of the 11. I could see him in United's strongest 11.
It fully depends, and I think we'll get a clear picture of what Erik ten Hag wants to do sort of tactically and formation-wise. My opinion is it'll be a version of a 4-2-3-1. Now, that is still a midfield trio, but how you shape that midfield up, I think it'll be not, say, two defensive midfielders, but I don't want to say McFred, but two players sitting side by side. Maybe one sits a little bit, but two sort of central midfielders with one number 10. Now, if you're to weigh up those two number 10 in the team at the moment, who's going to play Bruno Fernandes or Christian Eriksen? I think a lot of us would say Bruno Fernandes, and I think it would be right to say that. But obviously there would be sort of benefits in playing Eriksen over a Bruno Fernandes, as we discussed not long ago in regards to Bruno Fernandes, his pass completion and the way he plays the game. Would a Ten Hag team be better suited to have someone else? Someone like Christian Eriksen obviously does keep the ball very well. So let's say we play in a system with a number 10. You think Christian Eriksen at the moment would probably be a squad player, in my opinion. Now, that squad player, if he starts performing and the person in the starting 11 doesn't perform, that can very well turn, and Christian Eriksen could be the starting man. Now, if that midfield trio changes shape and play with sort of one defensive midfielder and two number 8s, I think Christian Eriksen is one of those players where we do have in our mind a number 10, an attacking midfielder. But as I made the point, some of those attacking midfielders now, and the prime example, I'm not putting him in this category, but the prime example was David Silva. David Silva was this tricky, sort of intricate number 10. But with the right manager and with the right team around him, with the right instructions, you can play them in midfield. If they do have that creative force. If you put look, I don't want to say the names in terms of no one's fan favourites at the moment, but if you put a Scott McTominay or a Fred next to Christian Eriksen with someone behind them, so maybe a defensive shield behind them, have someone do Christian Eriksen running for him, Christian Eriksen can sort of flush in that creative role from a deeper position. So I do see a role sort of in a deeper role for him, not so much in that number 10. I think Bruno Fernandes will have that spot to start the season, but it does give you options, and it's one of those ones where we've criticised, we may know we're in the Europa League, that's Thursday, Sunday, that's more fixtures we don't need. Well, it's a good thing now Christian Eriksen's going to get his games, because this never quite works. Managers always play their strongest team, unfortunately. But we all sit here at the start of the season and say, let's have a Premier League team, let's have a Europa League team. Let's hope Erik ten Hag is along that line of thinking, Larry. And he has Bruno Fernandes for a Saturday in the Premier League. And then midweek, Bruno Fernandes can get his rest and Christian Eriksen plays in the Europa League. That is what I think will happen at left back with the signing of Malacia and sort of his challenge for Luke Shaw. But where do you see him in regards to that? Is he brought into sort of, obviously he's brought in the challenge. If he plays all, he will play. But is he brought in with a view to be in Man United's first team?
I think with Ten Hag, it's really difficult to say, isn't it? Because he's a new manager. The reason I could see him being as part of United's strongest 11, Tom, he depicts everything that you picture or associate a Ten Hag style player to be. Technically sound, intelligent, occupies and understands space really well. I think Bruno's an intelligent player, but he's very much an off the cuff player. He looks at what's in front of him and he makes a decision on the spot. I think with Eriksen, you get a bit of a hybrid between that. Juan Mata, one of your favorite players over the last decade, I think he's very similar to a Juan Mata, Christian Eriksen. Similar in the way he plays, similar in terms of technical ability, doesn't have a strong reliability in terms of pace, but has an outstanding passing range, great delivery from all. And I think this is the biggest thing that people are understating. His delivery from anywhere on the pitch. If you think of Kevin De Bruyne, you picture that wicked cross from the right hand channel. Eriksen's got that in him as well. And I think that's not being stated enough. I think what he does offer United is that passing range that we've lost with Paul Pogba. I think he gives you that, but with it's a little bit more targeted. I think with Eriksen, you're getting a guaranteed creative outlet. And someone made the point above. There was a reference to 5 subs in a low block. That's another point. If United are 0-0, you've used your attacking players, you can bring on an Eriksen. What a huge advantage for a Ten Hag.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
I think I might be back. Do let me know.
No, you're back. All right, I think Tom's a little bit delayed, so I'm going to kick him out. Tom, refresh and bring yourself back. But what do you guys think around Christian Eriksen? Because I could really see him pushing his way into this United 11. I'll bring it to your comments. Let us know what you think. Football Capital here making a good point. Adam's point earlier around De Jong, does that leave United a bit too exposed in terms of signing Christian Eriksen first, not reinforcing in that number 6? So, Tom, welcome back. I'm just going through Football Capital's comment here. Adam made the reference above earlier around United signing Eriksen, but we're not addressing that number 6 issue. And Football Capital making a good reference here. Football Capital, big friend of the channel. Make sure you do give them a follow and a subscribe. Lissandro Martinez, who has been linked with United as well, has played defensive midfield at Ajax as well as centre back. So if that signing gets pulled off, do you think that is our number 6, or do you think he'd be brought in to play centre back?
Well, it's good to be back. I don't know. Obviously, Sydney rain has hit my internet, so thank you, Larry, for holding the fort. On Martinez, from what I've seen on YouTube, he obviously does occupy that space a little bit at times. He might be a brilliant number 6 for Manchester United. Who knows? I don't see that personally. I think you need a little bit more. I don't know, Erik ten Hag. I think there's been a quote floated about saying he's not fit enough to play. Not to be too critical of him, but I think he made a sort of point that he doesn't have the sort of capabilities to sort of start games and play in midfield sort of on a regular occasion. So that would be interesting. Personally, I don't see that. That's not to say he can't do it or he won't be a great signing if he is to join Manchester United. But my question I'll throw back to you with regards to Christian Eriksen. I don't know if you brought it up in the minute that I was off, but in regards to that, not in regards to I've made the point, has he done enough at his time at Brentford? Not so much that, but this is a business side of things. It is a free transfer. I think that is where Manchester United have sort of jumped at this opportunity. Let's say Christian Eriksen, and I'm not saying this is not the case, but given our situation where we sort of find ourselves in, if Christian Eriksen is on contract at, say, Inter Milan and nothing happened with his heart a couple of years ago or last year, I'm just thinking if he's worth 30 or 40 million, he's left Tottenham, gone to Inter Milan, he's doing quite well there or not doing well, whatever the situation is, and he costs 30 or 40 million at Inter Milan. Is it the player we should be going for? I'm not saying it's not, but would you be happy with bringing Christian Eriksen in, or are we just happy that we've signed him because it is a good bit of business? It's sort of risk-free. So I'm just seeing your thoughts on tying the business side of things into this.
I think it makes sense. I think it's a really good transfer. I mean, all the reports coming out of United are there's money to spend within reason, no set budget, but United clearly are trying to be strategic in the market. Can we look at the transfer business we've done or are about to do? You look at Tyrell Malacia. I got to say, really astute business from United. They knew there was another club negotiating. They saw the price set with Lyon, and then they jumped in on top and said, well, actually, all right, this is clearly what you value the player to be. We're going to give you a little bit more to get you over the line. And United got value for money in that deal. Now, you get Christian Eriksen. If Christian Eriksen had a 3-year deal, or if Inter didn't terminate his contract, we'd be talking about a 50, 60 million pound transfer right now. It makes perfect business sense. He's a good footballer. He adds depth. And if Bruno Fernandes, like Luke Shaw was pushed when Tellez was signed, or like Brendan Williams when he came into the first team setup, I just wonder, do you think with Eriksen there and the fact that Ten Hag is a fresh coach, he's not an Ollie, Bruno's not his signing, do you think actually it might put a pressure on Bruno to perform?
I
Might
think
actually make him
every signing should be designed to put pressure on that person, whether they're brought in as a first teamer and that puts pressure on someone's career at Manchester United, or they're brought in as a bench player and sort of someone's not going to find themselves getting their appearance fee. I think every signing is designed to put pressure, and I think that is a good thing. If someone can't handle that pressure, I'm sure Bruno Fernandes can, but if Bruno Fernandes can't handle that pressure, that's means it's a good signing. That shows up Bruno Fernandes. Now, I don't think that'll happen, but we do need to pressure these players because they've had sort of far too much of an easy ride over the years. Now, almost the elephant in the room regarding Christian Eriksen, and it's always there. Everyone sort of knows it's there. Kind of sort of skip around, and it's obviously a very delicate issue. And fingers crossed, he is back to full health. And it was obviously sort of near tragic scenes what we did see at the Euros last year. And I'm just thinking, obviously, Manchester United will do their due diligence, if I get my words out, in regards to this medical. It's an important medical. Now, look, I'm sure he's back to full fitness. He's proven that at Brentford, but this needs to be done right. Now, I'm not saying Man United are going to fail him on his medical. I'm sure he'll pass with flying colours, but this is an important issue because if this suddenly happens to a Manchester United player, this is, like, if it happens, it'll be sad at any club, but this is Manchester United on front page news everywhere. Just your thoughts in regards to his, not his health issues, but face it, he did have an unfortunate incident, and I think it is worth discussing in regards to, could you see Man United in regards to tying that transfer fee back into it, spending 40 million after those issues?
Oh, I mean, we'll never know, right? But look, I'm not too concerned. The fact he's come back, he's played Premier League football. Brentford didn't need to protect him in any way. He played a good chunk of games and he played good minutes when he came in. I think this is good business, and you have to think. Look, we're no doctors, but if he's passed the medical at Brentford, he would have been getting consultation prior to that. And we also have to remember that these are millionaires. They get the best advice that there is out there. You have to think there's a small risk there. There's little room for error too. Look, United already have one player that they're paying not to play. I don't think they'd be taking that gamble, and this is why you do medicals. I have no concerns there. I'm really excited about this signing. I think this signing's almost more exciting than, your big names. It's like, you think of Ronaldo last season, for example, much more exciting, much more attractive to the eye. But this is astute. We might look back at this transfer window as one of the best post-Fergie time, because already, if you look at Tyrell Malacia and Eriksen on top of that, you've already strengthened the squad. And I think you could argue, depending on form, you could improve the 11 with those two players. So you got to say, good business from United.
I completely agree, and you're not wrong. However, we've said that every window, maybe except the David Moyes window, we've said that every single window we've said that. I think that comes with the positivity of being a fan, and you can obviously make the case that, yes, this is the right signing, which we all do at these times. If we sign Frankie de Jong and he's an absolute flop, in 6 months' time, tomorrow we're saying what a great signing, what quality he brings to midfield. If in 6 months' time it hasn't worked, we're saying why we bring in players in who don't want to play for Man United. So I agree with you 100% that it does have the potential makings of being a very good window, but we have been burnt before. So it is on the players. And just a comment here, Emad sort of brings up in regards to the players what we'll discuss in regards to competition for Bruno Fernandes. He says after the season the whole squad had, the pressure is on every one of them to perform. Having new signings just means they have to look over their shoulder. No free passes this time around. What have you made of? Now we haven't seen Erik ten Hag's training. We've seen the sort of passing drills, which everyone sort of lost their mind about. But what have you made of, or have you made of anything in regards to Erik ten Hag's first couple of days? I don't think we can, but maybe you can. Have you made anything in regards to one or two, whether it be leaks have come out or sort of quotes have come out, or just your thoughts on his first couple of days?
The most pleasing thing with Ten Hag has been the standard he seems to be setting, and it seems that the players are. I mean, Marcus Rashford came out on MUTV already. He said it's a happy training camp. They're working hard. They're doing some work with the ball, but they're also doing some running, and he's finding a way to incorporate. And the key thing I took out of Rashford's interview was he mentioned that, they're having fun. They're enjoying themselves. And I think that that's really important. I think United have lacked the fun at training for the last 12 months. So I think that that's a really good thing. Look, the training video, I can't remember what Twitter account it was. Someone with, Anyway, just trying to break down a passing drill that I do with my Sunday league team, and I'm like, are you kidding yourself? Like, of course he's demanding excellence. I mean, my coach demands excellence. Doesn't change the fact I'm a Sunday league footballer. You know what I mean? I think people lose their minds a bit too easily when they see people doing a 1-2 touch drill. But ultimately, I think we'll get a good view, and we'll be in Melbourne in just over a week's time, and we'll get a good opportunity to see what's playing style are United implementing. I think that's where you're going to see what Ten Hag's been doing with these players.
In regards to Ten Hag sort of implementing that style, just a comment here from Abdi saying, I think it's a fantastic sign for United's point of view, as we're going to see a lot of creativity from both Eriksen and Frankie de Jong. Let's assume Frankie de Jong gets over the line. I expect these two midfield duos will dominate opponents. Do you think that is a thing we will see? We have in our minds that Erik Ten Hag will come in and will start playing a more dominating sort of style of football, like a Manchester City, like a Liverpool. Ultimately, if he still has the same tools now, maybe he's a better manager and getting that message across compared to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or Ralf Rangnick. Fingers crossed that is the case. But do you have any concerns that he might want to try and implement this? But we've seen with these players, a McTominay, a Fred, a Rashford, Martial, Maguire, Luke Shaw, whoever, still the same tools. Do you have concerns that as great as he potentially is as a manager, he's still got his hands tied behind his back somewhat?
It's really difficult. You and I have spoken about this away from a stream, but I just think the amount of players who underperformed last season, that wasn't their capability. We saw the worst of their capabilities. We saw the worst of Harry Maguire. We saw Marcus Rashford's worst season in a United shirt. We've seen Martial frozen out and go on loan. I think there are so many players who underperformed last season that you have to think that this coming season, they surely have to get better. You can't repeat, otherwise their United careers are over. And I find
I'll say that every week, that they can't be as bad as last week, but they proved me wrong.
Yeah, but I think when you're talking week to week in the dysfunctional culture and setup that United had last season, like Tom, these players had 3 managers in the space of 9 months, which isn't going to be stable for any player, particularly when you don't get time on the training pitch. And I just think the way Ralf Rangnick wants to play, which isn't too dissimilar from a Ten Hag team, I just think you can't set a team up to play high press, high energy halfway through the season. It's not possible. Not when they've been playing a defensive system where they back off and then suddenly you're telling them to play on the halfway line. It's just not feasible. So I think, I don't think a manager is the 100% reason why a team is successful, and they're also not 100% reason why they're a failure either. But I think what the key is for a good coach, and what we'll see out of Ten Hag, is can he get that extra 5% out of Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial, Jadon Sancho, Luke Shaw, Fred, McTominay, Aaron Wan-Bissaka? If he manages to do that, well, these players came second 2 seasons ago. So you put a few additional pieces into that side. There's no reason why United can't be pushing in a top 4, maybe further beyond that.
You talk about sort of players, and what these stories maybe didn't come out in the same vein under Ralf Rangnick, but players now enjoying training. Now we're saying, well, hang on, why weren't they enjoying working for Man United 6 months ago when things got tough? They should always sort of rock up and enjoy the privilege that it is to play for Man United. But I'm just thinking we questioned their ability and desire to work when demands were placed on them under Ralf Rangnick. I'm thinking we're just assuming they're going to enjoy it and assuming they're going to work under Erik Ten Hag. I'm just thinking, is that maybe the difference between a full-time manager and an interim manager, that they say, okay, they didn't have to do it as like the substitute teacher when Rangnick was in charge, and suddenly they will kick into gear that Erik Ten Hag is in charge? Or is there a concern that, hang on, they're still going to have heavy demands placed on them, and as soon as these players have had heavy demands placed on them in the past, they've shriveled and they haven't sort of lived up to those? So do you honestly believe there is a change? No, I'm not saying there isn't. I like to think there is, but do you think there is a change in mentality that Ten Hag has brought initially?
Well, he's demanding excellence. The thing that impressed me about Ten Hag, and look, obviously the only thing to answer your question is time. But ultimately, you look at his first press conference. Didn't look to impress the media. Didn't look to kiss ass. He wasn't looking to get the fans on side. None of that. He spoke truthfully. He talked about setting expectations, winning the league. He talked about eras ending with Liverpool and Manchester City. And I just think he just irks. He irks a good arrogance and a good confidence. And I just think if I'm a player and that's the first impression I'm getting of my coach, don't tell me you're not willing to go to war for a coach like that. He demands excellence. I think with Oli, Ollie kind of was in the shadow of Sir Alex Ferguson and trying to be the really nice guy all at the same time. He wanted to be friends with the players, but also wanted to be the authoritarian. And I don't think you can do both.
Hmm.
I think you got to either be one or the other. And Ten Hag to me strikes me. Look, he's obviously come under the tutelage of Pep Guardiola. He plays a very disciplined style of football. So you have to think those two things going hand in hand. I think he'll demand excellence, and if you don't perform to the level, I don't think he'll be afraid to drop you. I think that's
Is there a case? Is there a case in terms of there's been a lot made of when Erik Ten Hag had that first press conference when he was asked about Ralph Rangnick, and there was a bit of there was perceived tension between the two. Ten Hag didn't want him, so Ralph Rangnick left. Was he sacked? Did he want to stay? And all this sort of narrative was around those two managers. I had no doubt there was a big conversation between those two and a valuable conversation between those two. And Ralph said exactly what was happening. I'm sure Ten Hag listened. Now, if Ten Hag acts on that, who knows? But I'm sure there's a respect there. Now, Ten Hag might want to go in a different direction for whatever reason. Ralph Rangnick might have been sacked for being too honest. Who knows how that has played out? But Adam brings up a point here in regards to mentality. I'm still unsure how this team can handle the pressure, which I agree with it in regards to the players that he's bringing in. We have questions. Is Eriksen backup? Is Eriksen a first team? Is Malacia one for the future? And he's going to be back up to Luke Shaw for the Europa League? Or is he going to come into the first team? Is a midfielder, Alessandro Martinez, going to play in central midfield to sort of be Ten Hag's coach on the field sort of thing? I'm just thinking, is Erik Ten Hag bringing these players in who a lot of us think potentially backup players or ones for the future? But even on Malacia, is there potential for Malacia or for an Eriksen? No, Ralph Rangnick has got into Erik Ten Hag's ear and said these players don't have the right mentality. You bring in the players you want and you play the players that you're bringing in.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think with Malacia, it'll be interesting in the sense he's a young kid. He's got everything to prove. He's coming from the Dutch league, so there's definitely a challenge to overcome there. I think with Eriksen, you're getting someone who's Premier League proven, so you know he can perform in the league. He's come out of the Ajax system, so he'll understand in terms of the demands that Erik Ten Hag will place upon his side. So I think with Eriksen, he's a player that you can easily put your trust back into fairly quickly. I think he'll be someone that you can trust to put into the 11. With Malacia, he's got everything to prove, but he's got a good opportunity to push Luke Shaw. And I think if he can fulfill his potential, which there is a lot of, undoubtedly. I think he got 5 assists. So, if he takes his opportunity, who's to say he can't be first choice? And I think that's the exciting thing. If you think about a work culture, I mean, look, I work in HR, right? If you think of a working culture, if you want to reset the culture in a workplace, what do? You get rid of the current staff and you bring in the new staff. That's how you reset a culture. And then on top of that, you take some initiatives. If I look at what Ten Hag's done, he's taking the initiative, he's set the standard, and he's basically saying, you come on the journey with me or you'll be out the door. And I just think United, I know we've said this before, but I think where this season is different is, like we said, so many players underperformed last season. And I just think you can't have 2 poor seasons at United and survive. I'm listening to what Richard Arnold is saying around the mistakes that Ed Woodward made in the past. And you put all those things together and you just feel like United are heading in a different direction.
Yeah, so I can feel that, but I think I've been burned by that before, and I sort of get trapped in that sort of hope as we get as fans, and we do see these lines put out, whether they're put out correctly or they're put out by the club with a positive sort of PR spin on it. I've felt these feelings before. I felt it when Jose Mourinho came in. I felt it when Louis van Gaal took over from David Moyes. I felt it when Ralph Rangnick came in, was going to implement this sort of football style that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wasn't able to implement. Now I'm feeling it with Erik Ten Hag. I've had all these feelings before, but ultimately it comes back down to what a few people have mentioned in the chat in regards to it's the same players. You talk about players that you can't have 2 bad seasons at Old Trafford. They've had a bad decade. A lot of these players do get rewarded by sort of failing. Now, hopefully these new players do come in and they set that standard and the failure is behind us and these players are going to succeed. But that is on the players, both the old players and both the new players coming in. That is where the pressure is sort of placed on them. And it maybe comes back to the Cristiano Ronaldo discussion. If he's not there, who's placing these demands on him? Obviously, Erik Ten Hag would be, but Erik Ten Hag needs to. It's not a matter of hoping he needs to. Needs to get it done.
I've got 2 questions for you, and if you are new here, make sure you are hitting a like on the video. We will be in Melbourne in just over a week, Tom. So 9 days, we'll be in Melbourne. coming live to you from there. So make sure you stay tuned to the pub. Let me ask you these two questions, Tom. We've seen Ronaldo come out just over 24 hours ago, wants to leave United, seeing a lack of transfer ambition. We're now here 24 or about 36 hours removed from those comments coming out. Malacia is on the verge of being done. Christian Eriksen's about to be confirmed. Frankie de Jong is very further along. Is this the club responding to Cristiano Ronaldo? Do you think
it adds weight to that argument.
Urgency?
It definitely adds weight to that argument. Now, the big fear, or fear whatever side of the fence you sit on, is that there's something in this and Ronaldo will leave. But a huge side of things, and if you're a betting man, would suggest that Ronaldo will stay at Man United. And I made the comparison back to Rudy in 2010. Now, obviously, very different circumstances. But yes, one of the cases when this news did break 24 hours ago, we sat here and said, well, he could be putting pressure on the club in regards to whether that's he cares about the club or cares about himself. Pressure is pressure. No matter how it's applied, it's still the club is going to feel it. And it is interesting. I thought Christian Eriksen was going to be announced a little bit earlier. A couple of days earlier, in sort of retaliation to the dividends being taken out. I thought they were going to respond to that. I'm surprised it's taken this long. I thought Eriksen, it was never a decision for me between Brentford and Man United. He was always choosing Man United. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that decision-making process, and why it was so sort of dramatic. I cannot see a situation where he even considered Brentford. Really, I know there's loyalty there, but it's Manchester United. His second chance at a career. He was always choosing Man United. But look, it is an interesting one. Look, I hope I don't sound negative in regards to I actually love Christian Eriksen. He's a player I've always admired. His time at Tottenham, Inter Milan, he obviously does very well for Denmark in Australia's World Cup group, I think. Denmark in our group?
Yep, I think so.
Yes. So we've got Rafael Varane, we've got, not that Anthony Martial, he might make the French squad, who knows, Larry. We've got Christian Eriksen playing for Denmark, and obviously Tunisia will have Hannibal as well. So there will be Man United representation against Australia at the World Cup.
What number is Christian Eriksen getting? Do you expect Bruno to get the 8, or do you think Eriksen is obviously won 8 before? Who gets the number 8 this season? That's going to be interesting for me.
I think that's nailed on for Bruno. People might say that's right or wrong. A lot of people might say that's wrong. I think it's right. Bruno wants it. He deserves it. Maybe his recent performances haven't sort of deserved it, but given how he has carried us in the past, it could have been in relegation battles without Bruno. So I think might as well give him number 8. Interesting one with Eriksen. What's Bruno now? 18. Vacate the 18. I could see Eriksen wearing an 18.
Yeah, I'm with you. We'll bring it to a few comments and we'll start to wrap up. So if you want to get your comments in, make sure you are doing that, getting involved. Omar Joseph, if getting de Jong is a bit expensive, I think Milinkovic-Savic could do the same role. As a United fan, that guy can help us. Tom, what do you think? I'm personally of the opinion that the Milinkovic-Savic, I think that's kind of come and gone, hasn't it?
It was the Jose Mourinho era, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that boat's sailed and gone, mate. I mean, he's a good player, but I just think I don't see it personally. We've got Diraj Golani here. Will de Jong join? Well, we suspect he will. We had Adam McCullough on not too long ago, so if you want to go back and watch that video, do make sure you do that. But we discussed de Jong. We all, us three, suspect he will join by the end of the week. So wait and see, Diraj, but you have to think it happens. Tom, Borche asking the hard-hitting questions. Juan Mata or Eriksen?
Could I have more sort of details in regards to the question? What exactly is he asking? Who's the better player?
He's asking who you love.
Well, Matta's a better footballer. Now, going into this season, it's where I was saying, well, if you can't get Christian Eriksen, you might as well hold on to a Juan Mata or a Jesse Lingard. But obviously those two sort of careers had run their course at Manchester United for whatever reason. And I think Christian Eriksen is a great replacement for Juan Mata. I think he sort of performs a similar role and obviously a few years younger. So all in all, you have to say it's probably good business. While if a gun was to my head, I still would like to see Juan Mata at Old Trafford.
Oh, you'll always have a soft spot for Juan, won't you? Who gets the 6? Johnny Evans was the last player who wore the 6. Who wears number 6 now? Is it anyone?
Paul Pogba. He was the last one.
Oh yeah, Jesus. Nah.
just an unknown Frenchman.
Yeah, he's a nobody. He's And just a couple more comments here. Waiting for Eriksen news to get official, mate. It will get official. Just be patient. I imagine by the end of the week that'll happen. George here. De Jong, Tielemans, and Bruno would be my... Oh, Tielemans. That's another one. It's interesting. No club seems to be interested in him at the moment.
Sounds like Arsenal potentially. And look, Arsenal are interested in a lot of players. And who knows what's going to happen. They've obviously signed Gabriel Jesus today. Tielemans, that's an interesting one. There isn't really a battle for him where maybe there should be. Or but some of the other big clubs aren't in for him either. So maybe there is something there. He'll cost a lot of money from Leicester City. So be an interesting one. Arsenal, obviously, whether you think it's good business or bad business, they're doing a lot of business and they're getting things done. Now that might result in a good season for them, or might result in, fingers crossed, hopefully more of a circus. Hoping it's the latter.
Yeah, I got to be honest. Looking at Arsenal's transfer business so far, really impressive. I think they'll finish 6th.
Look, I love having a laugh at Arsenal, and we're right to do so. But it's always one of those things. Well, should we be laughing? Are we any better off? But no matter how bad we are, and even if they're a touch better, if we're 6th and they're 5th, technically they're better. In my humble opinion, they're still always worse off than us.
Yeah, I think they'll finish 6th or 7th. But I think that's a good place to leave it. Tom, I'm on the left, so normally, if anyone doesn't keep up with our content, whoever's hosting, we normally put them on the left. And because Tom's dropped out, I'm on the left. And I think by default, I feel like I'm the host now. So I'm just going to wrap up the video, Tom. So if you started the video, Tom hosted, but it's me to take you out. So thanks for tuning in. Lads, hope you've all enjoyed it. To everyone in the comments, if you are new here, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. Like I said, Tom and I will be in Melbourne in 9 days' time. If you are in Melbourne, make sure you do come say good day. We'll obviously put on details around where we'll be following the New South Wales Supporters Club. Keep you up to date with any events. So make sure you are staying tuned to all of our social media accounts, Twitter, Instagram, at UTD Pubcast. Tom, pleasure as always.
Always, mate. Who knows? It might be live in about 20 minutes' time when Malacia is announced.
Yeah, probably. Well, you might be live. I'm going to bed. But cheers for tuning in. We'll catch you guys in Melbourne. Probably chat to you tomorrow. Have a good night. Tom, in a bit.
Cheers, mate.
See you, mate.